did exactly what I think we all want to hear is how do you make this work? We can talk about the pie in the sky, but how is it working? And where policy works is, quite frankly, I'll say it really but it doesn't. It doesn't work nationally necessarily. It works in cities around this country. It works in states, and we notice its neighborhoods. And so I want to ask each of you, if you were talking about the importance of the American dream, and particularly at this time, because we have a situation where people are hopeless. They're in despair. I mean, honestly, the middle class is not really the middle class. They've lost their pensions, they've lost their retirements, they've lost their college savings. It's really hard out here, and it's not just facts and stats. So if we're looking at this as a constraint, if we know that the political will, we haven't talked about the election, but we will, but we know that the political will is not one that is necessarily bipartisan and cooperative. These are constraints that we have. If you had to identify 3 things that would help us be able to reclaim, resuscitate, whatever word you want to use, the American dream, so that it in fact does include all people, that it's equality across the board, what are the 3 things that each of you would name and talk about? I'm going to start with Jacob.
Jacob, yeah.
I was going to endorse his 3. So first, I mean, I want to say, what you were just saying is absolutely right. About right now, I think one of the great risks and one of the concerns I have is that our individualism and our belief in individual advancement can often lead to a sense of shared faith, right? The idea that we share these common values while we mostly have to rely on ourselves, we can work together to achieve common goals. Or it can lead to a kind of you're on your own mentality, right? That everyone's got to hunker down and kind of deal with their own problems. And we can't deal with these problems individually, which isn't to say individuals can't play a huge role. They have to. I mean, I'm reminded of that saying that you can't jump across a chasm in 2 jumps, right? You have to make it. And so I do think that boldness is really important. And I don't think this can happen without having our national politics work better, even if a lot of the solutions are going to come from the local level and the individual level. So I'm going to focus a little bit on the national scene and say that the 3 things that I would emphasize are, first and most fundamentally, we have to get our economy working again for the middle class. Now that's a huge agenda, so I'll be concrete for just a moment, but I want to step back. And I got a letter when I wrote a book a few years ago, The Great Risk Shift, that you mentioned, which was about how some of these risks have shifted onto middle-class Americans, from this woman who wrote a really eloquent note saying she'd never written an author before, but she was really moved by the book, and it was, and it wasn't my mother, I want to assure you. My mother doesn't read my stuff. And she said at the end, she said, "I'm sick of working for the economy. I want an economy that works for me." Now, I know it sounds a little bit individualistic, self-centered, but in a certain sense, I mean, it's just a wonderful line, right? I want an economy that works for me. It's really not that complex, right? I think middle-class Americans feel like they're working for the economy, but the economy isn't always working for them. And it isn't working for them, quite frankly, because over the last generation, we've seen most of the gains of economic growth go to the very top. I mean, in my book, Winner Take All Politics, I show that from 1979 to 2007, about 40% of all household income gains went to the richest 1% of Americans over that period. So this is a stunning reality. And to have an economy that works for the middle class means that we have to address this. It means we can't shower massive tax cuts on millionaires and billionaires at the cost of $700 billion that we could be using to invest in the middle class and rebuilding our economy. It means that we actually have to confront these stark disparities that are leaving many people behind at the bottom. So it means that we actually have to be clear-eyed about what's going on, and one of the things that's going on is we have inequality growing. So what I would say is that in terms of making the economy work for the middle class, there's an immediate short-term jobs agenda, and then there's a longer-term agenda. And it seems like the two of them, this may not be a realistic goal in the current political climate. I'm not sure what would be a realistic goal in the current political climate. But it seems to me that linking those two agendas, right, instead of saying, oh, do we need another stimulus package, right, or if you're on the left, a recovery package, and the longer-term agenda is absolutely essential. What are the longer-term agenda? I mean, Corey mentioned some of the things, right? We have huge unmet needs in this country, right? We have librarians being laid off, teachers being laid off, firefighters, policemen being laid off. We have roads and bridges that need to be rebuilt. We need to move into the 21st century in terms of our technology and infrastructure in many parts of the country. I mean, we have to create a clean energy economy. So thinking about how do we harness the American, the energy and ingenuity and innovation of the American people to achieve those goals seems to me essential. So I've thought about this in terms of, this seems like a simple technical fix, but I would say we really should have a separation at our national level between spending on current needs, whether it's retirement pensions or some kinds of health care, and investment, right? That things like that where we're actually investing for the future. This was something that's proposed, talked about back in the early 1990s and been off the agenda since then. But there's just a fundamental difference between spending money on Medicare beneficiaries near the end of their life and providing prenatal care or educational interventions or building infrastructure that's going to improve our economy, and we really should be thinking about those as separate. The two other things I'll say very briefly are moving beyond Washington. We have to rebuild middle-class organizations and voluntary society, in a sense. We've seen a hollowing out of our democracy because the organizations that once brought us into politics on common ground, from unions to fraternal organizations to traditional voluntary societies, have been in disrepair and decline. And this is so fundamental and so challenging. But to me, it's really at the heart of the problem today. We've got millions being spent, right? Billions being spent by this whole host of interests. Lobbyists are swarming over Capitol Hill, and where is the groups representing the middle class? Another woman wrote me and said, "Where's the AARP for families?" And we really need that. And then the third thing I would say very quickly is none of this can happen without political reform. And it's the least exciting and sort of most important part of this agenda, in that Washington everyone says Washington is broken, but what they fail to sort of say is what specifically can be done about it. And to me, we have essentially moved to sort of ossified, it's like the Polish parliament, where you have one guy rides in on a horse and screams "Veto Liberum" and everything comes to a halt. The Senate filibuster has made it so it's almost impossible to deal with a lot of pressing issues. We have at the same time this huge awash of money in American politics that makes it very hard for middle class voices and to be heard. And lastly, I think you just can't ignore how extreme and polarized our political debates have become, and a lot of that does reflect institutional realities of American politics, the way in which primaries are pulling candidates to the extreme, for example. That could be addressed through reform. So to me, that's the last thing. So we need an economic package, we need to revitalize civic America, and we need political reform. So,
Those are fair.
that's three ideas, three specific, straightforward, easy solutions. So
very easy.
Corey,
very easy.
Is there anything
Corey, is
left?
there anything else to add to that?
Wow, I don't know if I can be that cogent in a professorial way. Look,